Well, good morning, everybody. This morning, I was meditating on this phrase that my dad told me a while back. And it was simply this: God has no grandchildren. God has no grandchildren. And this came up because my parents were divorced when I was really young, like a year and a half, 2 years old. And they were going through this terrible, terrible custody battle. You know, sometimes when a divorce happens and there's kids involved, parents can get a little out of control. And that's what happened with my parents. And so they got into this insane custody battle over us kids, and they both wanted to have us full time, which wouldn't have been fair to either of them. And so in the midst of this custody battle, they spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars going to court, paying attorneys, doing all this stuff, trying to win custody over us kids. And my dad told me this really cool story. He was in business with a guy, and he was in business, and a guy that he didn't know very well came by his house, and they were talking for a while. And then my dad told him about this situation in this custody battle. And the guy said to him, after he had listened to all of these things, he said, "Hey, listen, you need to allow God to be God, because God has no grandchildren." And my dad said right after he said that, he stood up and he just walked out. And my dad was sitting there dumbfounded. Like, what does that even mean? What am I supposed to do with that? But he finally realized what he was saying is, why are you fighting over your kids? They're God's children. And God knows the best thing for your kids. He knows the best situation that he can put your kids in to make them who he wants them to be. And so God doesn't have a relationship with your kids through you, like they're his grandchildren. No, God has a personal relationship with your kids. They are his children, and he will fight for them, and he will put them in the situation that he wants them to be in, to work out the things in their life to make them the person that he wants them to be. So if you're in a custody battle, I understand that even as Christians, divorces happen. Now, God hates divorce, but he did make an allowance for divorce if adultery was involved. And in fact, the scriptures tell us that God even divorced his people Israel because they had played the harlot and they had committed adultery against God. And so he divorced them. But you see, when these divorces happen, you can't allow the world and these ungodly things to get in the way of God's relationship with your kids. These custody battles, they do you no good. You think they will, but you can't win a custody battle. The only person that wins in a custody battle is your lawyer. Why? Because you're paying them ridiculous amounts of money to go through these custody battles, and they drag them out forever. Years and years. I remember as a kid going through these custody battles, years and years, and going to different attorneys and talking to them and going to different counselors, even as like a 4 and 5 year old. Do you want to put your kids through that? No, you don't. You don't want your kids to go through that. So don't allow them to go through that. You see, in any fight, if one person stops fighting, the fight is over. It doesn't matter how deep it's gone, how much money you've spent, anything that's happened in there. If you stop fighting, the fight is over. And in that moment, I will tell you this, for my dad, in that moment, he stopped fighting. He stopped spending the money on the attorneys, stopped going through the court cases, and just said, "Hey, God, you work this out however you want to work it out." And God did. And he ended up getting 50% custody of us kids, me and my sister, and my mom got 50% custody of us kids. And I'll tell you, that would have happened even if neither of them would have spent a dime in court. And so it worked out. The judge gave them both 50%, which is what they should have had. And I'll tell you, in almost every situation, there's a few situations that it shouldn't be like this, but in almost every situation, your kids need both parents in their life to be well-rounded. They need a father and they need a mother. If they don't have one of those, they will not be well-rounded kids. And truly, we're seeing in our society today the impact that has had, that the breakdown of the family has had on our culture and on our children, because they're one-sided. They either, a lot of them are very mother-focused. They're very feminism-focused, even our boys today in our culture. And you don't want your boys to be like a girl. You don't. So they need their father in their life. And in the same way, even your daughters need their father in their life, because it's their father whom they will see and they will connect with. And so many times, daughters look for a spouse that is just like their father. And so they need that good father figure in their life, or they don't know who to pick for a spouse. And so you need both people. You need both parents in the life of a child to be there parenting them. But don't fight over it. Especially don't go into court, because you will lose. Even if you win in court, you will lose and your kids will lose. Guaranteed. Take it from a kid who has been there. Your kids will lose in a custody battle. Guaranteed. Don't allow that to happen. The Bible tells us that if someone wants to take you to court, settle with them outside of court. When you're on your way to court, settle with them and figure it out. Because if you go in before a judge, you will lose. Guaranteed. It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter even if you win the case, you will lose. The only people that win in a custody battle are the lawyers, because they will take hundreds of thousands of dollars from you, no problem. They have no issue with it whatsoever, and they don't care about you. They only care about getting the money. So settle outside of court, even with a person that is your ex, that you can't stand and you might even hate. You got to realize that at one point you loved them. You loved them dearly enough to have kids with them. So figure it out with them enough to be civil with them, so that your kids wouldn't be so negatively impacted by this situation. That you guys could have a cordial relationship, and that you guys could even have Christmases together and holidays together, even if you're with other people, because that's what your kids need. Don't think selfishly, think selflessly for your kids, because that's what your kids need. It has been such a horrible situation in my life to have to, on Christmas Day, go to that house and then go to another house and split time between my parents. Don't allow that to happen. Don't put that pressure on your kids. Instead, figure it out with your ex. Even if you're with other people, make it cordial so that your kids can have a normal life. Trust me, if you take my advice, your life will be better. Take it from a person who's been there. I know that there's so many people who are fighting right now as I'm talking to you. Don't allow it to happen. You will not win. Your kids will not win. Settle with your ex-spouse. Figure it out for what's best for your kids. And they will be more blessed in that than if you had them full time and you won this great custody battle and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it. Okay? Figure it out. And God will honor you honoring him in this situation. God bless you guys. We'll see you here next time. Bye-bye now.